If you are an Avatar The Last Airbender fan and you've ever wondered about where you would like to start with regards to reading the books and comics about this world, I think I've got the answer for you here today, as I'm going to talk about and review an Avatar comic that, as the title says, made me feel like a kid again. I don't exaggerate when I say that either. This comic, called Avatar The Last Airbender: The Promise, is a fantastic place to start reading the comics and novels if you are somebody who has watched the original cartoon and wants to be more infused into the world by learning about what came after that story. The Promise is a comic that gives a great look on that idea and brings in our beloved characters to a degree that will make you feel like you are watching the cartoon all over again. I've already reviewed all 3 parts of the comic separately, and you can go and find that on my channel, but this video is mainly running through why it is such a great comic overall, and one that I recommend anyone read if they wanted to get that itch back to consuming Avatar-related entertainment. The first thing I wanted to touch on, which I've already mentioned, is the idea around how this comic will make you feel. As the title says, it made me feel personally like I was a kid again watching the cartoon. Avatar The Last Airbender was one of the first shows that I grew up with as a kid, and when I got a chance to read this comic for the first time, it felt like I was experiencing that all over again when seeing the characters and so many other things come off the page in that manner. I feel like most people who grew up with the show like I did would want that in any other form of entertainment media that gets made around this world. It was a show that was primarily focused on a kid audience, and I feel like this specifically gave me that feeling again, no matter if it was the story, the characters, humor, and the elements, no pun intended, around its exploration of many different themes of messaging. That is a good transition over to another reason why this comic is so great and why you should read it, and it is around those themes and life lessons. Avatar The Last Airbender and the world that it represents is ripe for life lessons, messages, social commentary, and other themes, such as the one that this comic I think addresses heavily, which is the idea around conversation and knowing the people around you. It leans very heavily into that from beginning to end, where you see the characters at the beginning don't want to take the time to speak things out about a particular situation, and that by the time we get to the end of the comic, things end up turning into a much worse state of conflict, where you see them fighting each other. I found this particular to be evident with characters like Zuko, Aang, Katara, and even Earth King Kwai, who is playing a big part into why the storyline goes in the direction it does. The idea around this restoration movement is a part of the main plotline where a certain decision has to be made but in essence is actually hurting people instead of helping them. 2 sides disagree on it so heavily that they end up fighting each other over it. So it's things like that that this storyline touches very heavily on, and I think it is a great representation of something that we see a lot of nowadays, where people would rather fight each other than just sit down and have a respectful conversation, whether they agree or disagree. Even though this comic came out many years ago, those themes still resonate even now. Another one of those themes that also resonates very heavily within that line of thinking is the idea that even at the end of the comic, a character like Aang has a change of heart and a change of view on the world with regards to this restoration movement that he so defends. He gets the idea in mind that maybe not everything has to be separate the way that the restoration movement wanted it to be. He thinks that now it actually might be a good time for the world to change and not look back on its old ways of tradition. It's that idea that everyone had to be separate, but now he realizes that maybe everybody can work together and everybody can live together in a way where it is not separating all the 4 nations into one. It is a great theme that I really love that this comic explored, especially when you consider again that this storyline takes place after a 100-year war that ravaged all 4 nations entirely. Another area to touch on to where I love this comic so much is with regards to the characters. The writing is so well done and fleshed out when exploring each character in who they are and how you might remember them from watching the cartoon. For example, someone like Sokka and Toph are very much who they are. They are very humoristic in their nature and sometimes also play dumb. They are the ones that bring levity to particular plot lines. Then you have someone like Zuko, who is very conflicted in his nature. He might be the star of this this comic given how much time and attention that he gets. Someone that after the war ended has always sought to do the right thing, but given how throughout so much of what we know him from, he has always had this side of him that doesn't know what is right or wrong because he might go to the wrong person for it. The writing of this comic makes special attention to give us those moments where we can just read their conversations and understand what they are going through, especially when you consider where these characters are now in life with their new roles in how they have to cater to the world and their own nations. At the same time, to transition off that point, it also makes sure to treat itself like a cartoon, which is what Avatar is known for. You can have those moments of where our characters explore those themes and ideas, but then when we also have to remember that Avatar as a whole is brought up as a cartoon and one that is meant to give you those great moments of acting like one. This comic does not shy away from featuring subplots where you will recognize that they are more filler than what you were given with the main plotline, but in essence they do help to develop the characters. We saw that many times throughout the cartoon with The Last Airbender or even The Legend of Korra. I particularly did not care too much for the subplot that focuses on Toph in the comic, but I recognize it for helping to develop her out way more. That is why, again, it feels like you truly do have that experience of taking things on the page off of it as if you were watching the cartoon on your television screen. When it comes down to my closing thoughts on this video and my commentary of the comic itself, I would definitely implore everyone to give this one a shot if you are looking to get more insight of the world through the novelizations. This is a fantastic comic to start with, but at the same time, I would not pry you away from thinking that you have to start with this one. There are many other books and comics that you can easily start with. This one, given the nature of when it takes place in the timeline, I felt like I wanted to read it first because of that. Even with that all in mind, everything else I talked about still stands. It is a fantastic comic that I absolutely love that made me feel like that kid again and still feel like that kid as a grown adult. As we end off this video, everyone, please comment down below your thoughts on the video and my commentary for it. If you did enjoy the video and you want to see more like it, be sure to give this video a like, and if you are new to this channel, be sure to subscribe and turn on that notification bell to be updated for when I upload again in the future. My fellow benders of all four nations, thank you all so much for stopping by Uncle Iroh's tea shop. On your way out, be sure to let him know how much you appreciated his jasmine tea and his words of wisdom that come with it. I hope everyone here has a wonderful rest of the day, and I will see you all soon for more Avatar.